Jackie Christie didn't just lose it all. She was publicly obliterated in a courtroom so brutal, even the judge looked like he needed a cigarette after handing down the life sentence. Yes, life as in game over. No do-overs. No spin-offs. No special reunion episodes. Jackie, Queen of Chaos. Christie is now Jackie, federal inmate 3294. And if you thought her reality TV fights were messy, you're about to see what real destruction looks like when the cameras aren't scripted. How does one of reality TV's loudest divas go from flipping tables to flipping plea deals? And Doug Christie? Yeah, he's already practicing his "I don't know her" speech. Was Jackie betrayed? Set up? Or did karma finally pull the receipts she thought she'd buried deep in the group chat? Grab your snacks, cancel your plans, and buckle up, because the scandal we're about to expose makes every messy moment Jackie ever served on TV look like light work. This isn't just a downfall. This is public annihilation. When Jackie Christie walked into that courtroom, she didn't just walk in, she owned it. Dressed head to toe in black, diamonds flashing under the fluorescent lights, she moved like a woman who still believed she could bluff her way out of anything. But for once, nobody was buying it. Not the cameras, not the jury, not even Doug Christie, who sat stiffly a few rows back, his hands folded so tightly his knuckles turned white. It was over. And deep down, Jackie had to know it. The prosecutor's voice cut through the courtroom like a razor blade, slicing through whatever confidence Jackie had left. Embezzlement. Fraud. Money laundering. Obstruction of justice. Charges stacked higher than the Louis Vuitton heels she was famous for. And if that wasn't bad enough, the piece de resistance, wiretaps. Real, ugly, unedited recordings of Jackie Christie doing what she did best, threatening, manipulating, lying through her teeth. When they pressed play, you could hear the air suck right out of the room. There it was, Jackie on tape telling an associate, "You think I got this far by playing fair? Please. The rules don't apply to me." The gasp that rippled through the courtroom was almost louder than the recording itself. Doug closed his eyes. Jackie didn't even flinch. Maybe she thought denial would still save her. Maybe she thought she could spin this like another messy reunion episode, cry a little, blame the haters, and walk away untouched. Not this time. Because the judge wasn't playing games. Without missing a beat, the judge leaned forward, voice steady and brutal. "Jackie Christie, this court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole." There was a beat, a moment where time seemed to freeze. And then Jackie crumbled. It wasn't dramatic like on TV, it was worse. Silent at first, just a slow folding into herself, like someone had cut all the strings holding her upright. Then came the sobs, raw and ugly, ripping out of her chest as she clutched the edge of the defense table like it could somehow save her. Reporters scrambled to capture every second. Flash bulbs lit up the courtroom. Social media was already exploding. But the real betrayal hadn't even hit her yet, because as she was being let out, wrists shackled, makeup streaked with tears, she turned to Doug. Maybe she thought he'd stand up. Maybe she thought he'd fight for her. Instead, he stood. He turned. He walked out of the courtroom, without so much as a glance back. And Jackie? She broke again, screaming his name until the bailiffs dragged her through the heavy wooden doors. Outside, chaos reigned. Protesters, fans, haters, conspiracy theorists with signs reading, "Free Jackie and lock her up." It was the kind of circus Jackie used to thrive in. But now, she was the headliner for all the wrong reasons. Doug disappeared into a black SUV, reporters chasing after him like a pack of wolves. But he wasn't the story anymore. Jackie was. Inside that police van, Jackie Christie, once reality TV royalty, sat handcuffed. Her designer dress rumpled, her world reduced to 4 metal walls, and the haunting echo of her own name screamed into the void. The prison intake was worse than any nightmare Jackie could have imagined. The fluorescent lights, the harsh commands, the scratchy orange jumpsuit handed to her like an afterthought. No more VIP rooms. No more private jets. No more red carpet makeup teams. Just a bare mattress and the suffocating smell of bleach. The first night, She barely slept, replaying everything in her head. The trial, the betrayal, Doug's back as he walked away, Chantel's silence. Oh, Chantel. If only Jackie had known how deep her daughter's resentment ran. If only she had realized sooner that the person she spent years controlling, molding, and manipulating had been recording her all along. Because the audios weren't just leaks to the press. They were evidence. Evidence that Jackie had bullied, blackmailed, and silenced her own flesh and blood to maintain the illusion of her empire. And Chantel? She wasn't the timid little girl Jackie thought she'd crushed into obedience. No, Chantel had grown teeth. And when the time was right, she sank them deep. In the weeks leading up to the trial, Chantel met with federal investigators, not once, not twice, but 7 times. Each meeting, she handed over more damning evidence than the last. Voice memos, bank records, emails, even screenshots of Jackie bragging about using Doug's name to funnel money into offshore accounts. It was all there, neatly packaged. And it painted a picture so ugly, even Jackie's most loyal fans were left speechless. And Doug? Oh, he knew. Maybe not everything. Maybe not at first. But by the time the investigation heated up, he had a choice to make. Go down with Jackie.
Or save his own skin.
And like a true survivalist, Doug Christie threw his own wife to the wolves. Inside prison, Jackie's world shrank even further. Guards treated her like any other inmate, no special privileges. Fellow prisoners, many of whom had been fans, now saw her as fresh meat. Some tried to get close, hoping to cash in on Jackie's inevitable downfall memoir. Others just wanted a piece of the woman who once thought herself untouchable. Jackie tried to keep her composure, tried to keep playing the part of the queen, but it didn't last. Within days, she had a meltdown so loud the entire block heard it, screaming at no one, punching the walls, collapsing into sobs, begging the guards to let her call Doug. They didn't. She wasn't special anymore. Worse still, she started seeing things. Whispers in the night, shadows moving at the edge of her vision. Jackie Christie, the woman who had out-schemed, outmaneuvered, and outlasted some of reality TV's nastiest players, was now losing a battle against herself. And as if fate wasn't done kicking her, the worst news came a week later. Doug was filing for divorce. Not a quiet separation.
No.
Doug had hired the nastiest, most vicious lawyer he could find. He wasn't just cutting ties. He was gutting Jackie publicly, ensuring she couldn't touch a single penny of the fortune they'd built together. The tabloids went insane. Jackie left with nothing. Doug Christie's final betrayal. From riches to inmate number 30294. It would have been almost funny if it wasn't so tragic. Chantel, meanwhile, was thriving. Public sympathy poured in. Interview requests, book deals, offers to join reality TV shows of her own. The daughter Jackie once tried to silence was now rewriting the narrative and getting paid to do it.
And Jackie?
Jackie could do nothing but watch as her world burned from behind cold steel bars. Each day in prison blurred into the next: meals,
Counts, cell checks,
inspections, and always the whispers. That's Jackie Christie. She thought she was better than us. Now she's just another number. And Jackie knew. She knew this wasn't just prison. This was purgatory. A slow, agonizing erasure of everything she had built. Everything she had lied and cheated for, gone. But Jackie wasn't finished yet. Because deep inside the wreckage, a spark still flickered. A plan was forming. And it started with the one thing Jackie Christie had always known how to use better than anyone else: the media. Jackie Christie knew one thing better than anyone: how to control a narrative. And in the darkest corners of the prison, surrounded by nothing but 4 blank walls and the buzzing fluorescent lights above her, she began to hatch a plan. It wasn't a get-out-of-jail-free card.
No.
That would be too simple. Jackie Christie didn't do simple. She needed a comeback. The kind of comeback that made headlines. The kind that demanded people's attention. The kind that had the whole world watching. Because if there was one thing Jackie was good at, it was staying in the spotlight. And if she couldn't do it on her terms, she'd make the world beg for her story. She spent weeks in her cell obsessively watching TV, reading the tabloids, reading about her own downfall. She saw Chantel everywhere: talk shows, documentaries, magazine covers. The world seemed to be in love with Chantel's brave, whistleblowing act. But Jackie wasn't fooled. Her daughter wasn't the hero here. She was a pawn in a much bigger game. Jackie's mind, always sharp, began to piece together the bigger picture. Chantel had gotten herself caught up in something far more dangerous than she'd ever realized. And what better way to flip the narrative than to expose everyone who had crossed her? Jackie Christie had always been the master manipulator. And this time, it wasn't just about staying famous. It was about revenge. Behind bars, Jackie still had her connections. She reached out to a few old friends, people who had stood by her in the past. They were shocked to hear from her, but also intrigued. Jackie still had power. She still had influence. And with the right people in place, she could turn this whole scandal on its head.
She needed the media back on her side.
The tabloids were her best shot at making sure her story didn't die out completely. But getting the media back wasn't just about throwing out a few interviews. Jackie needed something explosive. Leak information that would make Chantel look like the true villain. One evening, a familiar face visited her prison cell. It was an old reporter, someone who had covered her for years. Jackie had always kept tabs on the media, knowing exactly who would bite when the time came. She whispered to the reporter, feeding him just enough of the truth, or what seemed like the truth, to make him want more. He was skeptical at first, but Jackie knew how to play him. She had a way of making people believe that if they just kept digging, they'd find something big. And that was enough to get the wheels turning. The reporter left with a promise to investigate, a promise that Jackie knew would be the first step in her grand comeback. Meanwhile, life behind bars was anything but glamorous. Jackie spent her days in a haze, filling her time with books, writing, and endless thoughts about what came next. It was in these quiet moments that her plan truly began to form. She'd been used, manipulated, and betrayed by everyone: Doug, Chantel, even her closest friends. But no more. Jackie Christie wasn't about to go down as the villain of her own story. She would rewrite it. Days passed, then weeks. Jackie's mental state fluctuated, 1 minute furious, the next eerily calm. She couldn't help but think of Doug, the man who had promised to stand by her, no matter what. The man who had once been the love of her life. And now he was a distant memory. He'd turned his back on her, and worse, he'd gone public with it. His sudden absence from her life only fueled the fire in her chest. He wasn't just running from her, he was running away from the empire they'd built together. But Jackie wasn't going to let him off the hook that easily.
No.
She had his number, and with a little pressure, Doug would have to answer for what he'd done. He would be forced to tell the world what really happened behind closed doors. And Jackie would be waiting, ready to expose the real secrets. The secrets that no one, not even Chantel, knew about. One evening, Jackie was summoned to the prison's visiting room. She wasn't expecting anyone, but as she sat down at the table, her eyes went wide. Across from her sat Tanya Fields, one of her former business partners, someone who had helped her run things behind the scenes. Jackie hadn't heard from Tanya in months, but Tanya was here now, and Jackie could tell by the look in her eyes that this wasn't just a friendly visit.
No.
Tanya had news. Big news. "I've been keeping an eye on things," Tanya began, her voice low, as though she feared being overheard. "It's worse than you think, Jackie. The things Chantel's been telling the press. She doesn't even know half of it. She's digging her own grave." Jackie raised an eyebrow. "So Chantel's not as clean as she wants everyone to believe?" Jackie's mind began to race, but she kept her face neutral. Tanya continued, "I've heard whispers. There's a lot more going on than just your money troubles. Chantel's not the only one who's been recording. Someone's been feeding her information, and it's not just from you. There's someone higher up, Jackie. Someone who's been watching you both. This whole thing is bigger than just family drama." Jackie's heart skipped a beat.
Who else was involved?
Who else was behind this plan to take her down? Tanya leaned in. Listen, I've been hearing things about Doug too. He's trying to cover his tracks. You know all those shady deals he's been involved in with you? The money laundering? The offshore accounts? He's trying to make sure he's not dragged down with you. Jackie narrowed her eyes. So Doug wasn't as innocent as he let on. She'd suspected as much. But Tanya's confirmation gave her a new piece of the puzzle, one she'd use in her fight to reclaim her throne. Jackie, I'm not here to hurt you, Tanya said softly. But you need to be careful. There are people who want to destroy everything you built. You need to act fast. Jackie leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with possibilities. This wasn't just about Chantel anymore. This was about a much bigger game. Tanya's words echoed in her mind. Someone higher up. Someone who's been watching. For the first time since her sentence, Jackie felt a surge of determination. She wasn't going to let this slide. She would expose everything: the betrayal, the lies, the corruption, the money, and most importantly, Doug's role in it all. This was far from over. The next day, Jackie was transferred to a more secure part of the prison, a place where she had more privacy. She was alone in her cell, no distractions, and she was ready to make her move. And just like that, Jackie Christie was back in the game. Her plan was set in motion, and she wasn't about to waste any time. Her mind was working at full throttle, strategizing every move, every phone call, every contact she could make from inside those prison walls. She had one mission: to reclaim control, to expose those who had wronged her, and to remind the world exactly who she was. Jackie Christie, the queen of reality TV, wasn't going down quietly, and now she had the tools to turn this entire scandal into her comeback story. The first step was contacting her old connections in the media. The press had turned on her the moment the trial